Today's video was answering one of the most common questions I get. How do you get your family to help you declutter and organize? Let's go. If I had $1 for every time I've been asked, Noreen, how do we get our family to help us with decluttering, organizing, and keeping our house neat? I would be halfway to getting my RV already because it is such a common occurrence. So I want to talk about some of the do's and don'ts when it comes to getting your family on board. Let's get the negatives out of the way by starting with the don'ts. The first one I want to address is don't nag your family. It's so easy to do, to say, how many times have I asked you to? But the problem with nagging is if everybody isn't already on board, they are just going to tune you out and not even listen to you anymore. And this is obviously a very frustrating thing that will lead to more resentment. So do your best to not nag, and I'm going to give you some other options later that will help to overcome this. Don't expect them to do as I say, not as I do. I've gone into so many homes where the homeowner is super upset that their family is not keeping their spaces neat and tidy. But the very first area I go into is theirs, and there's clutter. So that leads to a lot of resentment and a why should I do it if you're not? This next one is one that I personally struggled with and had the hardest time overcoming. Don't expect your family to do things the same way you do. A lot of times I would finally get my family to go wash the dishes or do the laundry. And when I would come in and it wasn't done the way I would normally do it, I was disappointed with the results. So my family learned, why try? Mom's never going to be happy with what we do. And that was setting up an expectation for failure. Now, before you click off, I promise I've got some tips that will help you to adjust all of these things to make it easier to get your family on board. The last don't, as tempting as it is, don't go on strike. What I have found, again, I did this one, your family doesn't care. Those things that are super important to you and are causing you to be so frustrated with your environment are the things your family don't prioritize already. So by going on strike and going, that's it, I'm not doing anything, those items and areas around you are just going to keep escalating, and that's going to cause you to have all the repercussion feelings and have even more resentment. So resist the urge to go on strike. So now that we've talked about the negatives, let's get to a positive point. Let's start talking about ways that you can approach your family differently to get them on board. Tip number 1, inspire them. I'd already mentioned do as I say, not as I do is not beneficial. So this starts with you. If you start working on your personal space and it gets cleaned up and you're explaining to them how much better it feels to have this area organized, that leading by example is going to have them look and go, maybe I could do that in my space. And I've actually had multiple clients of mine who have done this approach of, okay, I can't control my husband, but I can control my space. And I'd say the success rate is about 80% where the husbands go, hey, I want my area to look like that too. It's not an overnight thing, but I promise the inspiration will come from seeing how easy your space is to manage now, how much calmer you are, and how much benefit comes from having that area organized. Number 2 seems simple, but talk with your family members. Notice I said with and not to. If you approach this as a you standing up and everyone sitting down and you're telling them how the house needs to run, they're going to tune you out. But if you have a sit down, open discussion and talk about how the house feels and what everyone's priorities and needs are, you're going to come to a more level playing field, and you might even learn that for some people, I'll give an example. My youngest does not thrive in a minimal, super neat, organized area. To her, it makes her feel kind of frozen. She benefits from having some clutter around her, so we've come to an agreement in her room where I have my threshold, but she has her acceptable limit of this is the messy point that I feel comfortable in, and this is the area I can't go past, and this gives us this beautiful area in between where we can both coexist. So talk with your family, find out what is really important to each person, and find that common ground. Number 3 is one I learned in my teen years. Show them what you want. My dad had gotten into a new relationship when I was about 12 years old, and my new stepmom had very high expectations of what my chores needed to be. So I would have this list, and almost every day when she would come home, I would get in trouble for not doing these things properly. I hadn't done these chores before, so I would do my best to figure out how to do it, but at no point did I have the understanding to say, can you show me what you want? Nor did she have the understanding that I didn't know how to do these things, so she never thought to show me, this is the proper way to XYZ. Your family might be in the same boat, even if they've been around while you've done these things. By explaining what to do and sometimes why is such an important factor in understanding. If you explain why something is done in a particular way, that understanding absolutely goes through the roof and they're better able to meet those expectations that you have. Now, when it comes to decluttering, a helpful thing is sometimes you don't know what to even start with to declutter. So I've put together a complete room by room decluttering guideline. This obviously doesn't cover everything, but it's a good starting point to go room by room for things to look for to declutter. That's going to be a download from my website, as well as this whole video for the guidelines of what to do and not to do. That's also a free download on my website, so be sure to check out that link in the description below. Number 4, I know you want to do less, but offering to help your family to get started is sometimes a really big step. If you're having a hard time doing it without being angry, this was a problem I had with my youngest when we first started, have a family member or a friend come over as a non-judging person to just help guide them and, more importantly, keep them on track. Number 5, make it fun. This was something I actually did do when my kids were younger. I would have everybody going around and dusting or cleaning something, and then the timer would go off, and it was cute because they knew what that timer going off meant. They would all come running into the kitchen, and I would have a can of whipped cream, and I would give them each a little shot in the mouth, and they all looked like little birdies around me. So it was with whipped cream, and then they would giggle and go back to the task at hand. By breaking it up like this, it made it a fun thing. The other thing we would do sometimes is make a race. Who could get their floor cleaned up the quickest? Who could fold their laundry and put it away the fastest? Which, as a side tip, laundry, you guys, sometimes we need to lower those expectations. We don't need to have the KonMari beautifully folded things. Let them throw it in a bin. As long as they are clean, put away, not on the floor, and they can find them, that's a win. The last thing with making it fun, praise them. When they've done something well enough for you to be satisfied, let them know they've done a good job. If they walk away feeling like, I got to help, that's always going to go much farther than, I just did this and got in trouble for it. So praise them at the end and remember to keep those expectations in check. Number 6, I've talked about this one a lot. Take before and after pictures. So often if you've spent that 30 or 45 minutes on a project, you're done thinking, well, that did nothing. But taking a picture of the before, the after, and what you've actually gotten through, whether it's the pile of trash, donations, or recycled items, you're going to feel better about what you've done, and it also creates a journal of the progress, and sometimes these pictures are so motivating. Number 7, there has to be give and take. Like I talked about with my daughter's room of having that expectation that I have versus what her threshold is to feel comfortable. Make sure that you're giving something if you're taking something. By that I mean, if you expect everybody to have their room cleaned by bedtime, what are you willing to give to help them get that task done? By adjusting those expectations, by being willing to give up something that's super important to you so that they can meet you at least halfway, or by giving some sort of a treat or a reward. You're able to get closer to that expectation that you want that allows you to enjoy your home and not have to do everything on your own, and it allows them to give you what you want because they're actually getting something out of it too. So you've been going through some of these steps and your house is starting to feel much better. Your family has been on board with decluttering, keeping things organized and neat. How do you maintain that? Here's a quick tip. In order to maintain things not getting cluttered up again, have a central place in your home for donations. This is a guilt-free space where if they've got things that they're not using anymore, they don't like, they don't want, they can put it in this bin, and then a couple of times a month as it gets filled up, you can take this bin to your donation center, empty it, and bring it back to collect again. This is difficult if you're peeking in and you're feeling upset about the things that are in there. Try and make this a guilt-free thing. Otherwise, people tend to start collecting and holding on out of guilt, and that's not a healthy place to be in. So set up a guilt-free donation bin that anybody can put into, and then make sure you're donating on a regular basis. Number 9, be flexible and patient. If you're watching this video, chances are you have been trying to find ways to be organized and declutter yourself. So getting your family on board quickly is going to take time. You're going to need to apply many of these techniques that we've talked about, adjusting the expectations, making it fun for them so they're willing to do it, praising them, showing them the benefits, and on all of these things, you're going to have to keep adjusting until you find all of the tricks that work the best for your family. And chances are you're going to come up with new ones that I didn't even suggest here, in which case, leave me comments. I love getting these ideas from you, and the fellow viewers love reading through these and getting tips of their own. So what if you've gone through all of this? You've been patient, you've had charts, you've had rewards, you have done everything you can think of to get your family on board, especially leading by example, and they're just not getting it. Well, my friends, that's when you create your own beautiful space that you can retreat to. I'm not lying. Some family dynamics just cannot sync up in that way. And what I want to remind you is your family is constantly evolving. Remember when your kids were little and you had these giant kid toys everywhere and you thought, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get through this? It feels like it was so long ago now, but in that moment, it felt like it was never going to end. Whatever family stage you are in right now, sadly, it's going to pass pretty quickly when you look back at it. So in the meantime, while you're in this, create a corner that's just yours. Create a room. Create a space that you can go to when the clutter and chaos is just too much for you, that you can go and enjoy your space. This is my space. My family's pretty good, but because our house is so small, we only have one communal room. And if they have friends over and they're hanging out, I need a place to retreat. And that's my space out here. I get to control everything out here, and I love it. Hopefully one of these suggestions clicked with you, and it's something that you can try with your family. As much as I wish that there was one magic trick to getting your family on board, sadly it's going to be a lot of trial and error and adjusting to see what works. Remember, I do have these downloads on my website. One is absolutely free. The other I'm doing is just a very small charge. I think it's 79 cents. 30 cents of it goes to the website just to process the order. But I'm doing a lot of work on these downloads right now, so to recoup the time that I'm spending on them, hopefully you see value and you don't think that it's too expensive. If you do have an issue, let me know in the comments below. I definitely want to give you what works best for you, but I also want to make it worth my effort of spending so much time designing these, uploading them, keeping them on the website, which also costs money. So let me know what you think. I want to make sure I'm giving you guys what you need. Thank you so much for watching today. Thank you to my patrons who allow me to make these videos and offset the costs that go into it. I love you guys, and I will see you in just a few days when I'm going to be decorating for fall. Yay! Bye. The first thing I want to... Yzma's playing. She's super playful today. What are you doing? She is being so playful and interactive today. I am trying to work. I can't pay for your kibble if I can't work. I have to. What is you doing? What? Oh, come on. What? Oh, what? Can you see her?